In my intellectual sins video about Owen's skepticism about the moon landing, I mentioned I might make a humorous video sort of highlighting the flaws in what he's saying. But I don't know if I can be funny about this. It's actually kind of serious. And I think Owen is taking it seriously, as you can see from his, latest videos. I think he's done 3 or 4 now about this moon landing stuff. So I went and looked in various bear groups, the unbearable groups on Facebook and so forth, to see what other people were saying. And I thought maybe other people found some facts that I can use, because Owen has thrown out, many questions about the moon landing. And for one person to, debunk every single issue that he raises, it's kind of hard and it's kind of time consuming. So I thought maybe as a group, people will present facts that they are familiar with, and that can sort of help me see things more clearly. So I found this little speech here that this person wrote, and I thought I'd read it to you guys and see if you can get anything out of it. So he states, "Honestly, Owen, I deleted what I started to write, arguing details. But the more I think of this, I realize you must know that this is really about something like the nature of knowledge, skepticism, acceptance of authority, faith, motivated reasoning, and cognitive dissonance. Come clean with me. Are you really exasperated that you can't convince people they have been fooled, as you seem? Or are you trying to teach some lesson, perhaps about epistemology and faith? Are you being funny? Or are you experimenting, saying unusual things to an audience to see how they react? If you want permission to be weird, you have mine. If you want permission to question everything and think for yourself, you have mine. Play solipsism. Imagine you are in the Matrix, the Truman Show, flying the U-2 over a Potemkin village, Plato's cave, whatever. I can't say that skepticism is really wrong or misplaced in today's world. A lot of our surroundings are lies, to the point that getting through to truth and authenticity can be a rare thing. News ratings thrive on fear and novelty, so we are exposed to stories about crime and amazing crimes out of proportion to their occurrence. Sitcoms flatter their viewers and are shy of offending some kinds of people, so the media we consume constantly makes protected classes seem nicer or more competent than they are. Political movements are said to be grassroots but are manipulated by a few billionaires. Facebook experiments on the emotions of its users. Twitter shadow bans and quality filters. Google manipulates search, etc. I know all of this and can't get it across to many others. The targeting of something with skepticism, though, has no end. If you want to make people doubt something, the sphericity of the Earth, whether rockets would work in space, the existence of the dinosaurs, that creation took 6 days, evolution, etc., you can pick on endless issues, real or imagined, some of which require expert knowledge, some of which can be debunked with a bit of logic. And after all of your gotchas are dealt with, you don't have to stop. You can just throw out more challenges to the end of time. So you need a guiding principle, or at least a few rules of thumb for deciding what to be skeptical of and how far. Also, if you're as smart as you say and a comedian, your irritation about people's ridicule ought to be an act. You know what cognitive dissonance is. You've said that your craft is about shocking people while making them feel safe. So you should know when you are making people feel unsafe, and you should know or want to know why. For my part, science and science fiction is my life. The U.S. flag on the moon is the capstone of my nation. It is what MAGA means. It is what I learned to love at my father's knee. I read that, and what immediately came to mind, this guy's a fucking shill. He's a fucking shill. And he doesn't deserve to be part of Owen's great unbearable group, his unbearable community. I mean, he's talking about cognitive dissonance. Like, okay, so let's dive into cognitive dissonance, because obviously that guy is dissonant, right? So let's read about this now. I debated whether I should read this whole little article here or not, or maybe just highlight some of the things I thought were interesting, but I think I'm going to read it through. Cognitive dissonance is the mental stress or discomfort experienced when holding two conflicting thoughts. It occurs in situations where a person is presented with facts that contradict that person's self-image, attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors. This includes holding two or more contradictory beliefs, thoughts, or values at the same time, performing an action that is contradictory to one's values, beliefs, or self-image, consuming new information that conflicts with existing beliefs or conclusions. Here are a few situations that would cause cognitive dissonance. If you are in a cult and you believe the world will end on a given date, but it doesn't. If you believe government is solving inequality but find evidence that it isn't. You value your health but eat a donut. The tension of cognitive dissonance increases with the following variables: the importance of the subject at hand, how significantly the two dissonant thoughts conflict, our inability to rationalize the conflict. Cognitive dissonance is uncomfortable. People seek consistency between their thoughts and expectations and reality. We have a desire to hold all our attitudes and beliefs in harmony and avoid contradiction or dissonance. An individual who experiences inconsistency or dissonance tends to become psychologically uncomfortable. As a result, he is motivated to reduce this dissonance, as well as actively avoid situations and information likely to induce it in the first place. It encourages change in thoughts or behaviors. As the experience of dissonance is unpleasant, we are motivated to reduce or eliminate it and achieve consistency. Because of this, people engage in dissonance reduction, to bring their thoughts and actions in line with one another. This creation of uniformity allows for a lessening of the psychological tension and distress. This motivation triggers an alteration in one of the conflicting thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors to reduce the discomfort and restore balance. However, people don't always match their beliefs to the truth, as a rational thinker might expect. The powerful motivation to maintain cognitive consistency can give rise to irrational thoughts and behaviors. It can lead to a tendency to reject new information or ways of thinking that do not fit with pre-existing beliefs. How we reduce cognitive dissonance. When the consistency of our thoughts or behaviors is challenged, we must change our thoughts or behaviors to reduce the dissonance. In practice, 4 strategies can be applied. Change our behavior. This strategy presents challenges, however, as it is often difficult for people to change well-learned behavioral responses, like giving up smoking, or accept that they were wrong. Justify our behavior by changing the conflicting thoughts or adding new thoughts. Change our values or self-image, or reduce or exaggerate their importance. And finally, ignore or deny any information that conflicts with existing beliefs or acquire new information that outweighs the dissonant beliefs. To illustrate, let's consider a scenario where a person has adopted the attitude that they will no longer eat unhealthy food, but eats a donut. Here, the 4 methods of reduction are: change the behavior, don't eat the donut; justify the behavior, I'm allowed to cheat every once in a while, or I'll spend 30 extra minutes at the gym to work this off. Change values, I don't really need 6-pack abs, or live a little. Ignore or deny, this donut is not high in fat, or I found an article that says donuts are healthy. Changing behaviors or pre-existing beliefs is the hardest, physically and emotionally. We don't like to second-guess our choices or conclusions, even if later they are proven wrong or unwise. By second-guessing ourselves, it makes us think that we may not be as wise or as right as we thought we were, even more cognitive dissonance. Thus, the more common strategy is to justify, ignore, or rationalize. Those who have heavily invested in a position may, when confronted with disconfirming evidence, go to greater lengths to justify their position. The tells for cognitive dissonance. Once your actions and your self-image get out of sync, the result is often some kind of rationalization. Here are a few ways you can tell if someone is experiencing cognitive dissonance and taking action to resolve it. speechless. When a person that is otherwise very vocal becomes temporarily tongue-tied. Personal attacks. Making a personal attack without reason or argument. Irrational explanations. Offering a wide variety of explanations for an observation. When a generally rational person gives an irrational response to your rational argument, it probably means the argument was sound, but it violated someone's sense of identity. Persuasion 101. Arguing on the basis of facts is mostly futile because changing beliefs and behaviors is extremely hard. There is always more information out there for people to justify ignoring your arguments and/or reaffirm their own. Knowing that people don't want to change beliefs or behaviors, the only other variable you can change is identity. Therefore, the strategy, if someone disagrees because of cognitive dissonance, is to change who that person believes they are. Once his self-image matches your argument, he is free to agree with you. And there's a little bit more to this, but I think that's about as much as I want to say. And here you can clearly see everybody in these unbearable groups and the people in the chat while Owen is streaming. All the people who are saying that we actually went to the moon, they're all experiencing cognitive dissonance because Owen is telling them the truth. He's telling them what actually happened, and this does not match their identity. It doesn't match what they've come to know, and they've come to know what they've come to know they associate with their very being, their identity. So all these people are experiencing cognitive dissonance, and when they're trying to argue against Owen's position, they're simply rationalizing their own misbeliefs. So I think, whoever wrote this was spot on in sort of highlighting all those shills that are arguing against Owen. They're just fucking shills, and they need to shut their fucking mouths. I mean, look at this is the goddamn Van Allen radiation belt that Owen mentioned. We're fucking trapped on Earth, people. Nothing can get past the Van Allen radiation belt. How the hell do people even think that in the 60s we got a goddamn people and some kind of hunk of metal through this radiation belt? It makes no sense. Look at it. Go ahead, look it up for yourself. Van Allen radiation belt. You'll find there's no answers to how we got past that, and let alone the gigantic leap of a live TV broadcast. I mean, what kind of BS is that? I mean, you might look up Popular Science, and so here's an article, How NASA Broadcast Neil Armstrong Live from the Moon. And, it goes into things in quite some detail. I won't read the whole article because that's kind of boring. But, they bring up some scientific sounding things. But what you have to understand is that these people and this magazine, they're funded by the CIA. It's totally CIA. And don't forget about CAA, the people who represent Jordan Peterson. Now, Owen hasn't gotten to this level yet. I'm a little bit deeper into this than he had. Like, he sort of sparked it. He lit the flame in me. And I did a deep dive, and I'm starting to suspect that CAA, the talent agency that used to represent Owen, is behind this. Now, I know you might try to rationalize something saying like, well, they didn't even exist back when the moon landing happened and so forth. You're just experiencing cognitive dissonance, and I just went over it here. Maybe you have to replay it, okay? So don't even fucking try to argue with me in the comment section about CAA not being responsible for this whole moon landing hoax, okay? I don't want to hear it. What else? Okay, I went over what the shills are saying. There's just so many shills in these groups. They really need to delete themselves. Oh yeah, I want to play a little bit from Owen. We need to hear his words, and we're going to contrast and compare them. This is the big finale, people. I hope you've stuck around this long. I know it's been a little bit of a boring video. I'm kind of a master of boring, and my voice is, I don't have a lot of enthusiasm. I took Jordan's personality test, even though he's a lying... I won't say... I'll try to refrain from swearing. I've been swearing a lot in this video. But Jordan's just such a liar, and I took his lying personality test, and it did reveal that I'm very low in enthusiasm. I'm like at the 0th percentile or something. Anyway, so I want to play a little bit of this and compare and contrast. This is the big highlight of this video. What Owen is saying with this other video about science, okay? And I'm going to preface this by emphasizing that these people who claim to be physicists and scientists and those types, don't forget that they went to university, okay, the liberal elite enclaves that brainwash people. And so they spent all their time and money in the university. That was their goal, to get like a PhD in physics or something, some bullshit. And what they were experiencing there was just brainwashing. Their brains were colonized by this leftist CAA and CIA conspiracy. And don't forget, like Owen says, remember, back when we were under British rule, it was just a conspiracy that Americans were going to fight for their freedom and, you know, become their own sovereign nation. That was all just a conspiracy at one point. And look what happened now. Look where we are today. Okay? Don't forget that. So keep in mind, experts, scientists, and so forth, they're just brainwashed into the leftist narrative, the CIA and CAA narrative. So never listen to experts, never listen to scientists or physicists or anybody who's like actually worked on the moon landing project. They're bought and sold by CIA and so forth. I'm sure you've heard Owen talk about it. But so I'm going to let Owen speak. Remember, this video and then the science video. Compare and contrast. Learn something.
As we're driving insane distances. And that's one reason why I'm a little on edge. And I'm not putting up with anybody's shit at all. Like, you're out. You're out. You're fucking out of here if you want to talk to me about the moon. Because there's no excuse for that anymore. There's no excuse for that anymore. For a while, I was listening to, oh, there's difference in heat and temperature. Fucking no. You're out of here. You're out of here. If you privately want to believe that we went to the moon, that's fine. But don't bring those lies in here. This is a fun vibe. We obviously never went to the moon. All right, let's watch a little more. Then stop talking about the moon? Okay, well, you're now gone. And I used to feel bad about that. I used to feel bad about kicking people out for stuff like that. They'd be like, Big Bear, can we not criticize? No, you can criticize if it's helpful to the group. But if you're going to tell me to stop talking about something like Jordan Peterson or our fake moon landing, all it does is motivate me to go more. And I don't need you here. No one needs you here. In fact, no one probably needs you anywhere. So the least I can do is show you what it would feel like to not exist in a chat. And then hopefully you learn from that and grow so that doesn't happen to you in your real life and a real patriot takes you out. All right, let's...
Okay, so can I respond to your submissions, because I wanted to directly respond. I was actually thinking about this coming here because I thought that it was going to be one of the coming questions. How do we even start to decolonize science? Because science is true because it is science, and you know, what can you do? And my response to that was, if I personally were committed to enforcing decolonization, science as a whole is a product of Western modernity, and the whole thing should be scratched off, especially in Africa. So if you want practical solutions to how to decolonize science, we'd have to restart science from, I don't know, an African perspective, from our perspective of how we've experienced science. For instance, I had a question for all the science people is, there's a place in KZN, and they believe that through the magic, the black magic, we call it black magic, they call it witchcraft, others, that you are able to send a lightning to strike someone. So can you explain that scientifically? Because it is something that happens
Did you hear that goddamn shill saying that it's not true? Yeah, Owen would delete his ass out of this chat. What Owen would do in this situation is kick his ass right out of that room, because he's a fucking shill.
I need to address you directly. When we started this, we agreed on certain house rules. And by you doing that, you're disrespecting the sacredness of the space.
Don't disrespect the sacredness of Owen's thought.
And so I'd like to ask you to first please apologize to the panel directly. And then number two, understand the rules that we went by in this space. Because it's going to be very problematic.
Has Jordan Peterson ever apologized to Owen yet?
When we started, this is not an antagonizing space. And so what you're trying to do is collapse this space and make it antagonizing, which we will not allow. This is a progressive space for people to say their opinions. And we have noted how those opinions are going to be laid out. So I would like you to first apologize and then go on and agree to abiding by the rules of the space. Otherwise, I would, if you're not willing to do that, I'd please ask you to remove yourself from this space. But those are the rules of engagement of this space.
Okay, I'm very sorry to the panel.
Okay, and you agree to abide by the rules of this space. Thank you. Please carry on.
So I will finish. See, that very response is the reason why I am not in the science faculty. I did science throughout my high school years, and there was a lot of things that I just, but it's fine. But Western modernity is the direct antagonistic factor to decolonization, because Western knowledge is totalizing. It is saying that it was Newton and only Newton who knew or saw an apple falling, and then out of nowhere decided that gravity existed and created an equation.
Now, she's not as deep into this as I am. Hopefully someday she'll find out the truth that CAA, the talent agency that used to represent Owen, is behind the whole Newtonian gravity conspiracy. I can only hope and pray she finds out the truth.
And that is it. For the whether people knew Newton or not, or whether whatever happens in Western Africa, Northern Africa, the thing is, the only way to explain gravity is through Newton, who sat under a tree and saw an apple fall. So Western modernity is the problem that decolonization directly deals with, to say that we are going to decolonize by having knowledge that is produced by us, that speaks to us, and that is able to accommodate knowledge from our perspective. So if you're saying that you disagree with her approach, it means that you are vested in the Western and Eurocentric way of understanding, which means you yourself still need to go back internally, decolonize your mind, come back and...
Exactly right. Those people who are disagreeing with Owen, they're experiencing cognitive dissonance. Now, she didn't use those words, but that's what she's describing. They're kind of being hateful, they're being disrespectful, and they need to take a break, take a breath, decolonize their minds from all the brainwashing the CIA has done. As Owen said, it's wizardry and it's programming. Okay, it's in the word, it's programming. Why do you think they use that word for their television? Programming. Okay, deprogram your goddamn minds.
Say, how can I relook at what I've been studying all these years? Because Western knowledge is very pathetic, to say the least. I, from a decolonized perspective, believe we can do more as knowledge producers, as people who are given the ability to reason, or whatever is that people say we do when we think or rationalize. So decolonizing the science would mean doing away with it entirely and starting all over again to deal with how we respond to the environment and how we understand it. Thank you.
I wish Owen could find this woman and have her on his podcast. I know he had Anomaly on before, and Anomaly knew nothing about the unbearables. He didn't know Owen was banned from Twitter. He knew nothing. It's kind of really embarrassing to watch. But this girl, this woman, she seems to know her stuff, and I think she can sort of move the ball forward and assist Owen in decolonizing and deprogramming a lot of the unbearable people's minds. So I think that's where I'm going to end this video. If you enjoy this kind of thing, give it a like, comment below what you think. Did we land on the moon? Did we not? If you say we did, you're obviously brainwashed and a shill. And I'd rather you just not comment about that. But if you think we didn't land on the moon, I would like to hear all your evidence about how we didn't land on the moon. I'd like to hear all of the questions you have that there's no answer for. Just keep sending those to me. I never tire about reading those. But don't send me counter information. That just pisses me off, okay?